Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View Ladies Tea. Tonight, we got a veteran joining us again. Of course, editor-in-chief of Human Events and the post-millennial Libby Emmons, as well as a newbie to the show, author of Elephants Are Not Birds. No, they are not. Ashley St. Clair. Libby and Ashley, welcome back to the show. Libby, Ashley, welcome for your first time. You know, I like to kind of plan out sometimes what we're going to talk about on this show, and I want to make sure everybody's prepared for it. But just before the show, I said, we got to talk about Joe Biden overseas. Before we go in on this, it was one of the more shocking things I think I've ever seen. Take a look, ladies and gentlemen, at the current president of the United States. Look at this.
We talked about at the conference overall, we talked about stability. We talked about making sure that the third world, the Southern Hemisphere had access to change it, had access. It wasn't confrontational at all.
Thank you, everybody. This ends the press conference. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you bringing U.S. strategic interests above human rights here in Vietnam?
I've raised it with every person I've met with.
Mr. President, are you worried about your son being indicted, Mr. President?
All right, so Libby, there's Joe Biden overseas. He's throwing out dog-faced pony soldier again. He doesn't seem to really be making any cogent points. Nothing very coherent coming out of his mouth. They had to cut his mic, it seems, start playing jazz music. And then Karine Jean-Pierre came in as like the voice of God to say, like, that's it. It's all done. I was like flabbergasted, to say the least, when I saw what had just occurred overseas as represented by the President of the United States. Your thoughts?
Yeah, flabbergasted is quite the word for it. Also, totally humiliated is another word for it. As an American, you know, as a patriot, as someone who loves this country, that this is the individual we are sending out there to represent us, to speak for us, to determine how we are going to exist in the world, on the world stage. This is the same man who said just a few short years ago that America is back, that the adults are back in charge.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is perhaps far too advanced into adulthood for us to really allow this man to continue behaving like this. And then to have Karine Jean-Pierre, who already is just the worst. She can hardly form her own thoughts. And she had to come cut the president off. We should not have a president who needs to be cut off by his staff. That's infuriating and an embarrassment.
Yeah. Ashley, what about you? You know, it's never good whenever the president is talking about a certain part of the world that is not a third world country, and he calls them, I guess, by accident. I don't know. Maybe it was a Freudian slip or something. A third world country. There were just so many messy parts of all of it. And I guess the goal, they're trying to like ram Joe Biden down everybody's throats and like, look, Joe can handle this. We got him all over. We got him in 5 different countries over the course of like a week or something. Look how resilient he is. I don't think it's working.
No, it's not working, but I wish I could say I was flabbergasted. I'm really not. This is the guy that trips going upstairs. This is the guy who can't form a coherent sentence. But I would agree with Libby that it's absolutely humiliating. Think about the foreign leaders we have watching the president of the United States having his mic cut off, being ushered off stage, saying that's enough by Karine over here. And he should be in a nursing home, but instead he's in the Oval Office and has the nuke codes.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrifying stuff. And look, I really do give the utmost respect to the office of the President of the United States. Obviously, we know where I stand on Joe Biden, but this is a man who is not up to the job of being president. I don't know in any position where he would succeed. I'm trying to come up with a great spot for him as a work position. I can't even think of one place where someone would look at this guy and be like, you know what? He seems great. Let's hire him. And this is the guy who's our president, who, as you said, Ashley, nuclear codes. He's our representation around the world. It is unbelievable. And I hope people have been paying attention because, man, we've been trying to tell people this guy is not all there. They can't hide him, though. I think this is their problem, Libby. They can't hide Joe Biden in the basement like they did in 2020 and claim, oh, COVID. Now, we know they're desperate to get a COVID situation back up and running, keep people in some masks, maybe do some mail-in voting just for one more shot at things. But this is the guy they are going to campaign? This is their best guy?
Yeah, I think they're starting to worry about that too. You've started to see some headlines in the New York Times and other places about how, maybe Biden isn't great at this or that. And now we see today, 9/11, we see Kamala Harris out there in New York City representing the White House. Kamala Harris is absolutely not a person who should be representing the American people. She hates us. She hates the country. She says that outright. She's absolutely horrible. Her word salad is even worse than Joe Biden's because she just keeps repeating herself over and over again. And I'm worried that the Democrats are starting to think that maybe Biden isn't their best guy, and they're going to try and force Kamala down our throats.
Oh,
and that's going to be, even worse than, I don't know. Could it be worse? Is it possible?
It's really
possible.
This is where we are in America. This is where we are in America right now, where we're having to take a look at the two top people in our country, at least government-wise, and say, all right, what's the lesser of two evils here? And on one hand, you're like, okay, well, Joe Biden doesn't really know what's going on, so maybe we're a little bit better off with that versus Kamala, who definitely has her agency about her, so to speak. But the decisions she would make, I think, are really kind of scary for a lot of people. She certainly is not a good representation either of America, and not somebody that I want making major decisions for our country. So yeah, we're in a really tough spot. Best we could hope is Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. God forbid we ever come into a position like that. But wow, it's bad times. But you know what? Maybe it wakes people up. Maybe it makes people realize we need to make some big changes come 2024. I think some changes that the folks in New York City. Ashley, you're in New York, is that correct?
I'm in New York City.
Yeah. All right. We've got an immigration issue. Everyone knows about this. It's because Joe Biden has stopped obeying the law of this country and just allowed people to free flow, of course, over our southern border. All these people have to go somewhere. There are thousands and thousands of them, of course, that have gone to places like New York City, and it is a major problem. And here's how you know it's a major problem. You know, Ashley, when Eric Adams starts saying things like New York will be destroyed if the crisis isn't properly addressed. You got the rich women on The View. We know these people are about as far left as anyone can get. Ana Navarro says, it puts tremendous strain on the city, the community, on the social services. They need to be settled elsewhere. Okay, hello. Have we not been calling this out for 2.5 years now, saying if you open the borders and you just allow all these people illegally to enter, it will tax all of our systems. It will be a big problem. I mean, the audacity of people like Eric Adams and the sanctuary city loving View. Are you kidding me, Ashley? Now they're starting, I guess, to see that perhaps that is an issue.
They really should be ashamed of themselves here. The ladies on The View, Eric Adams, because while Eric Adams is going out now and saying that it's unsustainable, the border crisis, all the illegal immigrants coming to New York City is unsustainable. 2 years ago, he was touting that we're a sanctuary city, come one, come all.
Yep.
And then a few years prior, they were passing bills here that eventually got shut down by higher courts in New York to allow illegal citizens to vote in our local elections. So they're hypocrites. They're nothing but hypocrites. If you come here to New York City, beautiful streets, once beautiful streets like 8th Avenue are now destroyed. You can't go over there. They're housing illegal immigrants over there. Even with the schools, if you or I send our children to school here, we have to provide documentation. We have to provide vaccine documentation. The illegal children, they do not. They have to provide zero, zip.
It's
then
amazing.
They ride around on these scooters that are not registered either. And what happens when they hit you and they don't have insurance? It's hypocrisy. The entire city is going down the toilet because of their policies. And now they want to sit here and complain about it. And I believe it was New York Times or Washington Post who had the nerve to write a headline that said, Republicans are finally getting the immigration crisis they wanted instead of saying the one we warned about.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, who else but somebody from that crew who would write something like that? Libby, my favorite on The View was right after Ana Navarro went on this rant about how, oh, they need to be settled elsewhere. This is kind of like, you know, they're great with illegal immigrants flowing into my backyard, your backyard, but when they come to like Martha's Vineyard, now we got to get them out of there. Joy Behar, after Anna's little rant about this, said they should be settled elsewhere. Joy goes, this is only going to get worse with climate change and global warming because people can't live in parts of this world. She went with that. That's what she had to say about it. Amazing.
That is shockingly stupid. The other thing that's stupid is that she doesn't realize that these migrants are being settled elsewhere. There are migrants being
everywhere,
settled all over the country. Minneapolis, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Washington, Florida, you name a state, and there are migrants being shuttled there by DHS on planes, being dropped off with free cell phones that they are just hoping these migrants, illegal immigrants, that they hang on to so that they can come check out their court date in like 2027. Exactly. And this is also the Biden administration's new plan. They have entirely changed the rules so that you can't say illegal immigrants anymore, because now they are asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are legal to do as they please. So they come into the country, they get a court date for asylum. Most of these people are not going to be granted asylum, but by the time they hit their court date in like 3 or 4 years or 5 years down the road, they're going to be settled here. The damage will already have been done. And many of these places, like Ashley said, are trying to push laws into place to allow these people who are not citizens of the country, who do not hold green cards, to vote. And that cannot happen. That is absolutely insane. New York City Council tried to push that through. It was struck down by an upper court. The city of Minneapolis, or maybe it's the entire state, I think now, Minnesota, you're allowed to, it has to be state law there. You're allowed to apply for a driver's license if you're an illegal immigrant, if you don't have a green card and you're not a citizen. None of this should be pushed forward. We have a Department of Homeland Security that is so intent on destroying the border that I don't know why they even have security in their name anymore. Never mind Homeland.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, and it's obviously we see the issue when it comes to New York City proper. You go to any of these bigger cities, but then you have kind of like outskirts of the city, a place like Staten Island, which obviously is still a populated area, but it's not Manhattan. It's a little bit different, a little more neighborhoodly. There's a migrant shelter that has been set up at a 67-year-old school building for 300 illegal immigrants in a Staten Island neighborhood. It's literally right next door to a neighborhood. These people, you know, I'm sure paid good money for their homes, nice yards. The problem is that this building was not set up to house 300 people. It was set up as a school. And you think about a school, how many like toilets do you actually have in a school? They have some sort of like makeshift showers or something in the back, but the pumps on the sewage system that they have there cannot keep up with the amount of people utilizing the bathrooms. So once a day, they've got to have these big septic trucks come through. They've had the road closed down for, you know, months on end now because the septic trucks have to come through while they're pumping out all the sewage from this school because they can't handle it there. The entire neighborhood, for like as far as you can imagine, stinks, and you know what it smells like. And these people are like, listen, we're just trying to live our lives here. There's no animosity towards these people. They were sold something false coming here by our current, president, vice president. Remember the fact that Kamala Harris, of course, is supposed to be the borders are what a joke. But you know, they also are saying, look, the government is also lying to the people of our country about what's going on because it's causing major, major issues, Ashley, all over the place. And I mean, I think Libby just said it. It's not just in Manhattan. It's in a neighborhood near you. And if we allow this to go on, I think we're in for a very, very rude awakening. You're now seeing it with people like Eric Adams starting to get it. I'm a little nervous as to what happens when we wake up, because then what do we do with all these people? How do we rectify this?
It doesn't really matter to them because they can go over to their second home on Martha's Vineyard. But I'll tell you why it's happening in these little neighborhoods in Staten Island is because those little neighborhoods in Staten Island, the people there don't have the status, the power, or the resources to stop it from happening there. If you look over at Hudson Yards, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the entire country, they keep blocking affordable housing for citizens here because they don't want that near their neighborhoods. Yet they're able to shove asylum seekers into these schools and create these sewage disasters, these crime disasters for those that aren't in office, who don't have the resources and the status to stop this from happening in their neighborhoods, because the ones who would be affected, they can go to their second homes.
I think that's pretty accurate. We're talking about all over the country right now, but somewhere that I think typically gets it pretty wrong, California. Just as a rule, I think if you wanted to figure out a way to operate as a state, you would just kind of do the opposite of what California does. And this situation is no different. California passed a bill to essentially strip parents of custody of their children if they do not affirm the child's gender, Libby. It's terrifying. Assembly Bill 957, and they call it Transgender, Gender Diverse, and Intersex Youth Empowerment Act. This was passed last week. I don't even know what intersex means. I don't know. The problem is they're taking this to such a level in California that, imagine your kid comes home one day and says they feel like a different gender, a furry, whatever intersex means. And you're like, you know what, honey, I love you, but you were born this way or that way. And I think we need to get you some kind of help. You could lose custody of your child, Libby, at this point in California.
Yeah. So intersex is what we used to call hermaphrodite. It's a very incredibly small portion of the population.
Oh my gosh.
And they are being used as like a means to push all of this stuff through, which is absolutely insane. And many people with that condition will speak out and say, like, no, that's nuts. But if you are a parent, this is a PSA, if you are a parent, move out of California.
Please get out of there.
And get out of California.
Yeah.
Avoid Washington, avoid Oregon, avoid Minnesota, avoid New York, avoid all of these places, because these are governments that are interested in taking over your role as parent, transitioning your kid, allowing your 12-year-old girls to have abortions without letting you know about it, allowing your kids to undergo medical sex changes without knowing about it. One of the main culprits in California, this is someone that I know Ashley is familiar with, is this guy Scott Wiener up in Northern California, who has pushed through that's his real name.
Wow.
He's pushed through so many of these bills, and he's pushed through bills to, reduce penalties for sex offenders. He's pushed through bills that can be classified as state-sanctioned kidnapping, and he's helped push through this bill as well that requires judges during custody hearings to give preference to parents that will allow the child to undergo sex changes if that's what the child wants. Now, we all know as parents that your child can want all kinds of totally lunatic things. Yeah. And it's our job to keep them whole and healthy and, help them grow into successful adults. This is not what California is interested in.
This bill, if passed, and if this thing kind of gets legs, Ashley, this has the potential to see parents charged with abuse and or neglect if they do not participate in their child's transgenderism. It is, as a parent, I keep seeing things that horrify me. This certainly is one of them. Something else that I think is pretty wild is that a Los Angeles school is hosting now an LGBT rainbow club for kids who are in kindergarten through 5th grade. And this is what it says. It says it's a space for celebrating many types of identities, including lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, non-binary, queer, questioning, intersex, there it is again, ace, and two-spirit identities. What in the hell are we talking about? Are we just making things up and throwing them in to put more letters on the back of this? What is this now?
We are, and I keep saying we are in a very, the reality is you could send your son to school and come back with a daughter now, but we do have to put some blame on ourselves on both sides for giving the state so much power over our children.
Yeah.
For us saying, yes, the state may know better what's best for your child than the parents. And we see this in family court. We see this in the DOE. We see this in school systems. We see this with truancy laws. And the other aspect of this is we could avoid California. We could avoid New York. But the reality is it's happening all over the country, even in Alaska. Anchorage School District has secret consent forms with children where they can identify as one thing at school and a different at home. There are schools across the country that will allow children to start transitioning, give them chest binders, give them materials on what transgenderism is. This is happening all over. And the only people who can fight back is us, is parents. That's why they started labeling parents as domestic terrorists as soon as they started showing up to the school board meetings again. So if you know everyone on your fantasy football league, men, and you don't know everyone on the department, your school board, you don't know the names of those people, you might want to spend your time elsewhere, but we need parents to start fighting back because it is happening everywhere. It's not just New York, it's not just California. We have the most egregious examples here. For example, in New York, we spent $250,000 on Drag Queen Story Hour here, teaching middle schoolers how to do drag makeup when they're not proficient in math and reading. But this is happening all over the country.
Wow. I mean, we really do fight back, speak up, speak out, whatever it is. I mean, it will continue, I think, to get worse until people take a stand on this and they say this is enough. And maybe it comes in the form of the elections next year. I'm not totally sure. You got to know who you're voting for, know who's running for your local school board, know who's running for your local assembly. You got to learn about all these people because these people ultimately make these kind of crazy decisions. And, then you got to send your kid to some school and you're like, I don't know what they're learning there. They're not, Ashley, like you said, they're not learning how to read or do math, learning how to do drag makeup. Who doesn't need to know that? Men and women's sports, we talk about this a lot. We've seen a lot of issues in the cycling world for some reason. This keeps coming back up. You have all these guys, Libby, who are saying that they're women and they're winning all of these cycling competitions. Now, there were two guys and they were competing in this race as a partner team. This is their name, the name of their team, TS Estro Dolls. They gave a little nod there to estrogen. Love how they did that. They're two men, biological men, who now say they are women. One goes by the name of Evelyn Williamson and competed in both the men's and women's categories in 2020, but only was placing in the women's contest, did not at all ever place in the men's contest, came in first for the women, of course. The other person doing this actually still has the name Michael Johnson, yet is allowed for some reason to compete in the women's category. And these two are just cleaning up. They're winning gold at all these competitions. And obviously the cycling world, I think, needs to step up and do something. I don't know why we are seeing all of these issues in cycling, but it seems like this has kind of come to a head a little bit.
Yeah, I think the trans rights movement is the most misogynistic movement the world has ever seen. It's more misogynistic even than what we're seeing in Afghanistan, the Taliban preventing women from going to schools, because what we're seeing is the complete and total erasure of women, the denying of biological reality, and the eradication of women from public life. That is in part the goal here. So perhaps it's just very similar to the Taliban, except, maybe the Taliban knows that there's a difference between men and women. We'll have to wait and see when they launch their Olympic teams. But this is absolutely horrifying to see this. Men just go out there parading around as though they're women, pretending, making up. I mean, it's a total lie. It's demanding that everybody else believe this lie. It's harming our kids. It's harming our girls. It's harming our boys. And of course, it's harming these women athletes. And there are so few women athletes who will actually speak out about this. We see some in skateboarding. We see some in cycling. We've, of course, seen some in swimming. But the cycling thing is rather egregious, and it has a long history. A lot of it started with, what's her name, Veronica Ivy or Rachel something or other from Canada, who went out there and was very vocal. There was also two men posing as women who won a cycling championship and kissed on the podium, while the woman who came in third, should have come in first, was over there, I think, nursing her baby. So this has been absolutely a horrifying thing to watch. It's time that all women speak up against this and stop being played by these men who hate us.
Yeah. You know, I did last weekend, I did a little triathlon here in Florida. I dabble in those, Ashley, every now and again. And I came in third in my category. I finished my race in 1 hour and 19 minutes. And I just didn't have time to stick around to see the two women who placed above me. But I was thinking the whole time, I was like, I wonder if there's going to be a dude who tries to enter this. Because let me tell you something, if I found out about that, believe me, I would be speaking up about it. But I thought, you know, just for the heck of it, let me look up some of these men who actually did beat me in this competition. The top male finisher, 59 minutes and 30 seconds. So this guy was finished a full 20 minutes ahead of my time. Even in my age category, the men who finished at first, second, and third in the same age group as I'm in also beat me by around 14 minutes, the top man. So there's no doubt that it's so obvious that we are not the same. We do not have the same capacity when it comes to our lung space, the whole physicality of all of it. It has now also kind of dipped into the sport of fencing. Just when you thought you couldn't go any farther with this stuff, there's apparently some guy who started fencing and didn't ever place. Now he's won 4 golds as a woman, 2 silvers as a woman, came in 5th and 8th place. And the Fencing USA, this is the sport's official organization, says their support for trans and non-binary athletes is, quote, both a moral and ethical imperative. So it doesn't seem like they're going to get anybody out of fencing anytime soon, Ashley.
No, and they're not. I feel like these men who then transition and start playing in women's sports are rather pathetic because, as you said, they don't place anywhere on the men's team. They have to go and beat women because they know they have a biological advantage. That's why there's such a disparity in where they're placing with men versus with women. But what they're doing is they need us to reject, the entirety of the left wants us to reject truth. Biological truths, language is part of Orwell's war on language because language corrupts thought. And if they can make us believe that there is no gender, men can be women, men can give birth, men can have uteruses, what else won't we believe? It's all part of an inherent war on truth. And we see this characterizing the entirety of what they're pushing on us. And I just think it's the most evident with the transgender issue, but that's really what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, we got to fix this stuff. I've got a daughter, and all my daughter wanted to do this weekend was do this race with me. So by the time she's doing triathlons and hopefully beating me, let's get all this stuff figured out so that our girls can actually get their due. Something else real quick before we go, I want to talk a little bit about crime, also running rampant across this country. And it's amazing to see, just like the immigration stuff in New York, where you had a complete 180-degree reversal of the mayor, Eric Adams, on this stuff. I think in a similar fashion, there's a Democrat official in Minnesota. This woman's name is very hard to pronounce, Shivanthi Sathanandan, who was a vote. Is that accurate? Did I get it right?
I don't know, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So in 2020, she was one of these people on the front lines of dismantling and defunding the Minneapolis Police Department. Couldn't talk enough about it, wanted to get those people taken care of, just get rid of that system and replace it with a community-led public safety system. This woman over the weekend, or at the end of last week, was violently carjacked in her driveway with her 4-year-old and 7-year-old child in the car. And I'm just going to read really quickly a little bit about what she had to say about this incident, because I'm pretty sure she has changed her mind on all of this. She says, yesterday, my children and I were violently carjacked in the driveway of our home in Minneapolis. 4 very young men, all carrying guns. beat me violently down to the ground in front of our kids. The young men held our neighbors up at gunpoint when they ran over to try to help me, all in broad daylight. And then she goes on. She does this whole long rant. Look at my face. This is the face of a mother who just had the shit beaten out of her. A mother whose only thought was, let me run far enough and fight hard enough so that my kids have a chance to get away. She goes down, and then she talks about how we've got to keep these criminals, Libby, locked up in jail. We've got to make sure that we take care of these people and hold them accountable. Who did she think was going to come do this? You're the one who wanted to dismantle and defund the police. It is the Democrat DAs who are letting all these people who commit crimes back out on the street. Seems like she's had a bit of a change of heart on that one.
Yeah, in fact, in that statement, she even thanks police for coming to her aid. This is a woman who's absolutely insane, I think, is what's going on here. Like, what did she think would happen if we get rid of police? Does she think that all human beings in the country are just going to live up to their better selves, never be greedy or violent or hurt anybody else? Does she really think that, you know, without police, we live in some perfect Eden where the animals just give us their meat off their bodies and everything is paradise and perfect? No, she's a fool. She's a fool, Laura. And I'm not surprised that she was carjacked in her city. The defund the police movement was shockingly successful, not just in Minneapolis where they actually took money off the budget, but in other cities where they did that. But also in terms of the morale of police departments. We have seen massive resignations from police forces, and police forces have an extremely hard time recruiting because no one wants to be one of these evil people that steps up to actually help and secure our neighborhoods and our cities. So I hope this woman learned her lesson. I think it's a real shame that she got beaten within an inch of her life in front of her kids and all of this stuff. It's just terrible. But, you know, frankly, you should really know better than to think that the cities in our nation are going to be a paradise once we take away all hope of security and safety.
It's just common sense, Ashley. This is my problem with all of this. You know, if you take emotion out of things and you actually just look at the situation, everybody could have told you 3 years ago, yeah, if you defund the police in a major metropolitan city like Minneapolis, it's going to lead to big problems. The police are there to do a job, and God bless them for doing it. You know, Libby, you talk about the fact that they don't want to get, you know, they don't want to feel like a bad person for standing up and fighting crime. They also get prosecuted sometimes for doing it. And look at so many, I mean, why even bother these days to be a cop? I mean, I give these people a lot of credit, but Ashley, it really concerns me that people are so easily swayed by emotion. Because, yeah, it feels good to say like, oh, this, you know, we should let everybody into the country. Why would we have any borders? Borders are just make believe. Yeah, let's defund the cops. Think about it for a second. And any rational human being understands why these things are problematic. My question is like, are we really degrading as a society so rapidly that people don't have the capacity for just common sense thought anymore? How would you think this was going to work out?
They value virtue signaling over common sense. And I'm having a very hard time feeling empathy for this woman because what she did in Minneapolis and what her colleagues did across this country have made all of us less safe, especially here in New York City, by a war on the police. All of us were more likely to have the same fate as her because of their rhetoric and what they pushed for, defund the police. Why didn't she just call a social worker? I thought that's what we were supposed to do now. That's going to fix everything. It's ridiculous and absurd. And I really don't feel bad because they did this. It's the same with the immigration issue here in New York City and across the country. They are doing this to themselves. They're shooting themselves in the foot. It's like that meme of the guy with the bike sticking the stick in his own bike and falling over. This is them. And I really don't feel bad because she put a lot of people in danger. A lot of people are still in danger. A lot of people may end up like her on her block because of what she did in office. So no, I really don't feel bad. And if I'm being honest, I don't know that she's going to have that much of a change of heart because these people are in an ideological cult that allows them to pass policies that benefit the elites and put the rest of us at risk.
I mean, clearly that's what has gone on here. It's just crazy because the way to fix these things seem so obvious. What with crime, you've got to hold people accountable for crime. We need more people out there cracking down on the criminals. With the border, I mean, I don't know why Eric Adams isn't calling up Joe Biden and saying, keep the border closed. Send these people back to their countries. How about a remain in Mexico policy like we had with Donald Trump? They now have a remain in Texas policy. Why couldn't we keep them on the other side of the border? It's so stupid, and the answers are so easy. I just hope that people are fed up enough with this nonsense that they're like, that's it. Maybe I don't like everything Donald Trump tweeted, but man, I'll tell you what, that was a better time than we're in right now, because it is crazy. And speaking real quick of Donald Trump, you know, my father-in-law has not agreed to do any of the primary debates as of yet. Don't think I have any new news on that. He did mention, though, Libby, that he would be open to possibly debating Meghan Markle. Now, Meghan Markle, this is not one I like to talk about a lot because I don't like to give her a lot of oxygen. I have a lot of personal thoughts about her, and potentially it stems from the fact that whenever we went over as a family to visit with the Queen and the royal family, for some reason, Meghan and Harry were unavailable to be around when we were there. I guess they had a very busy schedule, but I won't take that as a personal affront. Her approval rating has dropped with Americans to the lowest score ever. She scores a -2 in that category. And just prior to that Netflix special coming out, which I couldn't even get through the whole thing, her approval was somewhere around 23. Would you like, Libby, to see a debate between Donald Trump and Meghan Markle? What do you think?
He would clean the floor with her.
Yeah.
She doesn't know anything. She has no ideas other than, oh, I've snagged a man. Let me separate him from his family and make his life miserable. That's her whole MO. If this is a woman that came home on the arm of my son, I would be like, run, hun, just run. But sure, I mean, I would watch Donald Trump debate a brick wall, frankly. I mean, I'm always happy to watch him spout off on things, you know.
Oh God. Yeah. I think like if I could get a ticket for that one, that would be the show to watch. I would sign up for that. Ashley, what do you think about Meghan Markle? I mean, she hasn't done herself any favors. This is, you know, I get it. Look, being in the public eye can be challenging, but it appears, I think, to a lot of people like she forced herself into the public eye only to then throw mud at her husband's family and try to disparage them in every way possible. I don't really get what the big plan was. Was she trying to martyr herself? I don't know. What's your thought?
I don't know. I would agree with Libby that watching Trump debate her would be like watching him kick someone while they're already down. She's so low. She can't get any lower. But I think she's just going with the avenue that everybody hates me. No publicity is bad publicity at this point, because I've never met a wild Meghan Markle fan. I have never met anybody in real life who enjoys this woman. She's rather insufferable, and she's whatever the opposite of mansplaining is, that's her to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess 3 tickets for the Donald Trump Meghan Markle debate. I'll let you ladies know when we could go watch that one. So Ashley, thank you for joining us for the first time. We loved having you. And Libby, you're one of our faves. Thank you for being here. And everybody at home, as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View Ladies Tea. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LARAT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.